Yeah.
Okay.
Good Maharaj, can you please give me the verse number for today's class?
Yeah, Chaitanya Charitamrita. Chapter 10, verse number 15.
Good Maharaj, is it Adilila or Madhyalila or Adilila?
Yeah, Adilila.
Okay. Chapter 10, Good Maharaj, and verse number
15.
15. Yes, Good Maharaj. I'll just start announcing, Good Maharaj. So we have just only 9 devotees online, 10 devotees online. So Good Maharaj, do you want me to wait or shall we start?
Oh, let's see. Yeah, go ahead. Go to the verse.
Yes, Good Maharaj. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances, all grace to Srila Prabhupada. So today Guru Maharaj is going to enlighten us on the glories of Srila Gadadhar Pandit, as it is the appearance day of Srila Gadadhar Pandit today. Actually we all finished a series of lectures on Grihastha Ashrama, which was a wonderful series. And if anyone has missed it, please go to the YouTube or Facebook channels and find the recordings, and you can listen to those recordings and share your realizations later in the class if you want. Thank you so much for joining. Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Please accept my humble obeisances. Hare
Krishna.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. You can please take over the call. I'll just start screen sharing.
Okay. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhaktavinda Padasaka Gadadhar Pandit Goshani Tenho Lakshmi Rupatana Sema Kehanai. Gadadhar Pandit, the fourth branch, is described as an incarnation of the pleasure potency of Sri Krishna. No one therefore can equal him. Purport. In the Gaura Gonideshtipika, verses 147 through 153, it is stated, Sri Krishna's pleasure potency, formerly known as Vrindavaneshwari, is now personified in the form of Sri Gadadhar Pandit in the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sri Sarup Damodar Goswami has pointed out that in the shape of Lakshmi, the pleasure potency of Krishna, she was formerly very dear to the Lord as Shyamasundar Vallabha. That same Shyamasundar Vallabha is now present in Lord Chaitanya's pastimes as Gadadhar Pandit, formerly as Lalita Saki. She was also devoted to Srimati Radharani. Thus, Gadadhar Pandit is simultaneously an incarnation of Srimati Radharani and Lalita Saki. In the 12th chapter of this part of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, there is a description of the descendants of the cyclic succession of Gadadhar Pandit. Om Gyantamidam Dasya Ganajana Salakaya Chaksun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yamutale Swayamupa Kadammayam Dadati Swam Padatikam Ma Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Kristaya Bhutale Shri Bhakti Vedanta Swami Kinamane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nirvasesa Sunyavari Paspatya De Satarine Panchakalpa Tarupascha Kripa Sindhu Vacha Patitanam Bhavnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. So on these very auspicious days, we honor the personality who appears and sometimes also disappears. So today is the appearance of Gadadhar Pandit, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda. He is a member of the Panchatattva. He is Shaktimam, or he is the internal energy of the Lord, as the Panchatattva, Makam Krishnam, Bhakti Rupa, Swarupakam, Bhakti Avatar, Bhakti Kyam, Namami Bhakti Shaktikam. He is the last statement in that line, Shakti energy. He is the internal. And as it's described here in this particular verse, he is a combined manifestation of Radharani and Lalita Saki in one manifestation, who appeared to assist Lord Chaitanya in his pastimes and also to give him transcendental pleasure, as she is non-different. He is non-different than Srimati Radharani, but in a different mood. His mood is peaceful, respectful, renounced, as opposed to Radharani, who not opposed to, but he doesn't include some of the qualities that Srimati Radharani exhibited in her pastime with Krishna in the Vrindavan, such as waxing man or becoming angry at Krishna, disagreeing with Krishna, chastising Krishna, all in the mood of pure love, of course. We have to understand that apparently these apparent negative qualities are not negative, they're transcendental, and they are the elements that increase the sweetness and the variety of the loving moods. But in Gadadhar Pandit, you don't find that. As we mentioned, he's peaceful, respectful, and very much renounced. We see now that Lord Chaitanya appeared about 90 days ago. No, not even, I'm sorry, what am I saying? About 40 days ago. And so Gadadhar Pandit is now appearing. And it's interesting, they appeared the same year. Gadadhar's birth is also 1486, the same year of Lord Chaitanya, only 40 days apart, approximately 40 days. And so you see he's just a little bit younger in age than Lord Chaitanya. And therefore, when he appeared in the house of one great personality named Madhava Mishra. His mother was Ratnavati, and he also had a very devoted brother whose name was Vaninath Mishra. He became friends with Lord Chaitanya even before Lord Chaitanya manifested his pastimes as the Supreme Lord. When he was Nimai Pandit, both of them were students, and they were attracted to each other, but Nimai was always very confrontational. Sometimes he would say to Gadadhar Pandit, try to answer this question. And he would, what is the meaning of liberation? And Gadadhar Pandit would give the meaning, and Lord Chaitanya would reject the meaning and say, tomorrow go study your books, and then tomorrow I'll ask you again, and I'll also ask you more questions. So Nimai, Lord Chaitanya, was known as being very restless in his early age, a little bit arrogant from having the position as being a Pandit. And he used that to preach Krishna consciousness in a negative way by showing that even though he was glorified and renowned as one of the greatest and the greatest scholars in all of Navadvip, he gave it up to become a devotee. Now that is very significant for all of us, that no material position anywhere even can slightly compare to the glory and the benefit of becoming a devotee of the Lord, and the happiness also. So that's why Lord Chaitanya was not a typical materialist, but for the time being, during that time, he appeared to be the best in student studies, in debates, in many good qualities that he had, but he used them for putting his position forward. Gadadhar Pandit and Lord Chaitanya were inseparable. The first really deep meeting was at the house of Sukumbara Brahmachari when Lord Chaitanya came back from Gaya after taking initiation from Ishwara Puri. And the Lord now had been somewhat transformed. And now he was exhibiting pastimes of ecstasy, having been initiated by his spiritual master. One such incident was in the house of Sukumbara Brahmachari, where some of the intimate associates of the Lord, especially Gadadhar Pandit, were there. And Gadadhar Pandit had his first real understanding of Lord Chaitanya. During that time, he actually saw him as a great devotee of the Lord. And that made their relationship even stronger at that time. Of course, they were inseparable, but the Lord wasn't exhibiting himself as a devotee until he got initiated. Why did he do it that way? Because he wanted to show the importance of initiation. How it's without becoming, taking shelter of a bona fide spiritual master and working according to one's, the inclination of that spiritual master, one has no position anywhere. They're like a leaf in the wind. Therefore, they must understand, and Lord Chaitanya taught the benefit of spiritual master, and he showed by example that once one becomes blessed by the association in terms of the instructions and guidance of the spiritual master, then one's life is successful and one becomes happy and enlightened in knowledge. At one point, Nimai, after he came back from his time with Ishwar Puri, now he was a changed person, and therefore he would go into ecstasy. His mother was quite worried. She couldn't understand what was going on. And she was asking others, what's wrong with my son? And they were saying, well, it looks like he has this wind disease, which is known today as epilepsy. And therefore he's acting like that. So you need to treat him by bringing him to a Kaviraj, a doctor. And so she did. Lord Chaitanya, went along with that. And the Kaviraj gave different formulas, but obviously he didn't have any wind disease. And then she didn't know what to do after a few failed attempts with different Kavirajas who gave formulas that were quite ridiculous when you look at it. And still, Lord Chaitanya was exhibiting his ecstasies. So then his mother, she understood that when he's around Gadadhar Pandit, he becomes peaceful. So she said to Gadadhar Pandit, please stay with my son. Only you can pacify him. So one time Lord Chaitanya went into ecstasy and he was crying out, where is Krishna? Where is Krishna? And he was in such emotional turmoil that Gadadhar Pandit said to him, Krishna's in your heart. Just be patient, be patient. When Lord Chaitanya heard that Krishna is in my heart, just like Hanuman, when he was challenged that is Ram in your heart, he took his hands and ripped open his chest just to show that Sita and Ram were there. So Lord Chaitanya, trying to imitate Hanuman, tried the same thing, but Gadadhar Pandit became alarmed seeing what was happening. So he grabbed the hands of Lord Chaitanya, and it was a very difficult struggle because Lord Chaitanya is very strong. And he somehow restrained him by giving him this knowledge. Please be patient, Krishna will come. When the word got back to Sachi Mata, how Gadadhar had pacified the Lord, she said, oh, Gadadhar, please never leave him. Only you can pacify him. Only you can help him. They were inseparable. Of course, when after some time, Lord Chaitanya took the sannyas order of life. And well, even before then, there were many wonderful pastimes. Gadadhar danced danced during the march on the house of Chandkazi. When Gadadhar was with Lord Chaitanya after he delivered Jagai and Madai. And there was many, many verses, wonderful pastimes. But I'll get to some of the major ones, like for instance, when Pundarik Vidyanidhi, who was an incarnation of the father of Srimati Radharani, Vrishabhanu, King Vrishabhanu, appeared in Navadvip, Lord Chaitanya started to call out, Father, oh Father. Everybody was wondering, why is he calling Father? Who is he referring to? But at one point, Lord Chaitanya said to Gadadhar Pandit, a great personality has come. And I think you should get some guidance and instruction from this personality. He is a great soul. And so he called Mukunda. He said to Mukunda, take Gadadhar to meet Pundarik Vidyanidhi. Now, Pundarik Vidyanidhi was a great soul, so much so that no one could understand his greatness because of his external appearance and also his external activity. He was dressing in very opulent clothing. He would chew betel nut. He would hold a mirror in front of his face and smile. He would, he lived in a very palatial apartment, room, with many decorations and nice opulences. So when people saw him, they were just thinking he's a gross materialist, but actually he was completely different. So this is instructive. One cannot tell a devotee simply by the external appearance. How do you tell a devotee? By his words. What he speaks, then you can see you can understand what is a devotee. Same with a fool. When the fool speaks, then the fool is revealed. And when the devotee speaks, the devotee is revealed. So Gadadhar very obediently, following the instructions of Lord Chaitanya, went with Mukunda to the house of Pundarik Vidyanidhi. And then Gadadhar was sitting there, seeing Pundarik Vidyanidhi, and he was starting to become quite bewildered. This Lord Chaitanya said, this person is a great person. He looks like a very gross materialist. And so Mukunda could sense what Gadadhar was feeling and thinking. So then he quoted one verse. Let's bring that verse up. It's from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, 2nd chapter, verse number 23. Third canto, 2nd chapter, verse 23. Aho bakiyam stanakala kutam jigasam yavyapagyan apyadasadi lebegatam dat uchitam tanoyam kimbhavalam saranam gujema. Powerful verse spoken by Vidura. Vidura speaking this verse. Alas, how shall I take shelter of one more merciful than he who has granted the position of mother to a she-demon Putana, although she was unfaithful and was prepared deadly poison to be sucked from her breath. So this was the verse that he quoted. Now, when Pundarik Vidyanidhi heard this verse, he became mad. Immediately, he started to go into ecstasy and he couldn't control himself. And he started to just wail and express emotional anxiety of separation from Krishna, thinking how merciful, how kind, how unbelievable the compassionate the Lord is, that here was a she-demon who came to kill him. And still, because she came as a mother, he saw her as that. He got rid of her poison and, got rid of that body that she was inhabiting and gave her liberation, high liberation. And when Pundarik Vidyanidhi went to ecstasy, just thinking about the mercy of Lord Krishna, and he started to rip his very opulent clothes, start throwing his possessions around the room. When his servants, he had servants, they came to hold him down. They couldn't hold him down. It was impossible. And then they simply went flying in different directions, as is described. And so this was the situation. And now Gadadhar Pandit, now he's having a change of heart, a change of mind. He's thinking, oh my God, I just offended this personality. And this by thinking wrong with him. And this went on for 6 hours. 6 continuous hours, Pundarik went into ecstasy. And finally, when it was over, he sat down in a very passive way, like a little child who didn't know what was going on. And then feeling embarrassed about what happened. But Gadadhar immediately started to understand, oh my God, I've been thinking of him in the wrong way. I must be an offender. I have to do something. So he said to Mukunda, I think I want to get an initiation from Pundarik. And so he communicated that to Pundarik Vidyanidhi. And Pundarik Vidyanidhi was so happy. He says, how rare it is to have a disciple such as Gadadhar Pandit. One cannot count their great fortune to have such a disciple. And so we know Gadadhar Pandit being Srimati Radharani and Pundarik Vidyanidhi being King Vrishabhanu. So father and daughter, in Krishna Lila have now become reunited as disciple and spiritual master. And so when Lord Chaitanya heard about this, he became very happy. And the happiness was so much that Lord Chaitanya danced with Gadadhar in ecstasy in the mood of Vrindavan. They also manifested their original forms also. There were many pastimes with Gadadhar Pandit and Lord Chaitanya. One significant one was the Lord at one point accepted sannyas and on the request of his mother, left for Jagannath Puri to reside there. Gadadhar Pandit, immediately feeling the separation from the Lord, left Navadvip and went to reside with Lord Chaitanya and Jagannath Puri. While he was there, the Lord gave him much attention, and he also gave him a deity. The deity was named Gopinath. And his deity was a very special deity. It was a very tall deity. And it was there was a temple called the Tota Gopinath Temple. Tota means forest. It's also called Yameshwar Tota. And he gave it for Gadadhar to worship. And Gadadhar worshipped that deity as if it was Lord Chaitanya himself. And so this went on for some time. And then Gadadhar decided to take Kshetra sannyas. Kshetra sannyas is a type of sannyas where one accepts a holy place as one's resident while they're in this material body. In other words, they don't leave. So one can take Kshetra sannyas, go to Vrindavan, and leave the body in Vrindavan. So he accepted Puri as his Kshetra sannyas. At one point, the Lord Chaitanya was very happy. But at one point, Lord Chaitanya wanted to go to Vrindavan. And so he made plans for leaving. When this was found out by Gadadhar, he wanted to go. The Lord says, you can't go. You have made your promise to Gopinath, and you have taken Kshetra sannyas. Gadadhar Pandit said, you are non-different from Gopinath. And therefore, wherever you go, I'm with Gopinath. Lord Chaitanya would not accept that, and he made his plans to leave. As he was leaving, he came to one, and Gadadhar was following behind. At one point, he came to the Mahanadi River, and the Lord got into a boat. And then he turned to Gadadhar, and again, he rebuked him for trying to leave. And then the Lord immediately turned to the boatman and had the boatman row away. Gadadhar Pandit, when he saw that, he fainted. And fortunately, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was there to pick him up. He took him back to Puri, and Sarvabhauma said, Lord Chaitanya cannot bear separation from you, but he's trying to teach the importance of upholding vows. And you'll find this in Lord Chaitanya's pastimes. Sometimes there would be the loving mood that would interfere with the vow. And therefore, many times the loving mood would overcome the vow. And sometimes, but Lord Chaitanya wanted to illustrate in his teaching how important it is to make vows and to follow vows. And therefore, when Gadadhar Pandit wanted to break his vow and come with Lord Chaitanya, it was unbearable for Lord Chaitanya to be separated from Gadadhar Pandit. In order to teach and the importance of upholding vows, the Lord acted like he was indifferent to Gadadhar Pandit's attempt to go with him. The Lord started for Vrindavan. There, as he was traveling, he first came to Ramakeli. He met Bhupan Sanatan Goswami. And then when he was there with Rupa and Sanatan Goswami, Sanatan Goswami said to him, I don't think it's a very good time for you to go to Vrindavan. But Lord Chaitanya just listened, and he said, then he went on his way. But after he got a little while away, he realized Sanatan Goswami was right. So he returned, went back to Puri. Upon reaching Kanai Nata Shal, which is none different than Vrindavan, devotees were very happy. When Lord Chaitanya came back, everybody was happy, but at the same time surprised that he had returned so soon. And when they asked him, why didn't you go to Vrindavan? He said, Lord Krishna would not allow me to go to Vrindavan because I made Gadadhar unhappy. So the Acharyas mentioned this point with great emphasis, that one should not cause distress, even in the mind of another living entity. And especially another devotee. So here, Lord Chaitanya is teaching that one should always be careful not to cause distress to any living entity. Now, there was nothing wrong in Lord Chaitanya going, but Lord Chaitanya wanted to make that point. So he was always teaching by example in his pastimes what we can learn that will be beneficial to our practice of devotional service. There was a great personality called Vallabha Bhatt. Vallabha Bhatt was from the Pushti Marg, and of course not at that time, but now he is the Acharya of the Pushti Marg. And he was very learned. He had written commentaries on some of the cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam, especially the 11th and 12th canto. And he was and he wanted to show Lord Chaitanya how learned he was. And so he had some pride. So he would come up to Lord Chaitanya and say, I have written a commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam, or surpasses the commentary of Sridhar Swami. Lord Chaitanya wasn't so happy to hear that. He said, Sridhar Swami is the original commentator on Srimad Bhagavatam, and therefore we must follow Sridhar Swami. We are like the wife who disobeys the husband. The word Swami refers to husband. Therefore, we should obey the Swami, because the wife's duty is to obey and follow the husband. And if she doesn't, she is a prostitute. So Lord Chaitanya pretty much told Vallabha Bhatt, Acharya, that he is actually acting like a prostitute. He also wrote a long list of names of Krishna, and he came to Lord Chaitanya to read the names. He said, I have written a list of names. Can I read them to you? Lord Chaitanya said, I only know two names, Yasodanandana and Shamsundar. So Lord Chaitanya kept putting on Vallabha Bhatt because he knew he was proud of his learning. Having been rebuked and ignored by Lord Chaitanya, he tried to go to Lord Chaitanya's followers, who did the same thing. Knowing how Lord Chaitanya felt towards him, they also refused to listen to him. But one time, after writing something, he went to Gadadhar Pandit, and he forcibly sat next to Gadadhar Pandit and started immediately reading his commentary on the Srimad Bhagavatam. Gadadhar Pandit is very gentle very peaceful. And so, although he was feeling very uncomfortable, knowing that he shouldn't be listening, because Lord Chaitanya would not approve, he didn't want to offend Vallabha Acharya. And so he started to pray in his heart, my dear Lord, he's a great soul and I don't want to offend him, but still I don't want to listen to what he is speaking. So please give me your shelter. After a while, when this came out, that Gadadhar sat there and listened, Sri Damodar Goswami, he told that to Lord Chaitanya and was very upset that Gadadhar Pandit had listened to him. The Lord Chaitanya understood that although he was listening to him, he was not listening to him. He was praying in his heart not to be affected by the situation. And he prayed to Lord Chaitanya to forgive him because he felt he couldn't do anything given the circumstance. Mm-hmm. Actually, Vallabha really liked Gadadhar Pandit and he approached Gadadhar Pandit for initiation. And when he did that, he was automatically elevated to Madhurya Ras. The final chapter was when Lord Chaitanya was coming regularly to see Gadadhar Pandit. One time, one great devotee, he had brought some really nice rice and he gave it to Gadadhar Pandit to cook for Gopinath. And so he cooked it, and after he offered it to Gopinath, Lord Chaitanya arrived, and Lord Chaitanya said, "Oh, Gadadhar's cooked this nice rice for Gopinath, and Gopinath has accepted. I have come to accept the remnants of this wonderful rice, which is cooked with love, care, and complete affection." And so the Gadadhar Pandit served that rice to Lord Chaitanya, and Lord Chaitanya was very happy. Gadadhar Pandit would read Srimad Bhagavatam regularly, and Lord Chaitanya would approach him and say, "Please read the stories of Dhruva Maharaj and Prahlada Maharaj." And so the Lord would sit and Gadadhar Pandit would read. And he would read, and he read with so much affection and love that when he would read these pastimes, after completing the entire pastimes, the Lord would say, "Read it again." And then he would read it again, and then the Lord would again repeat, "Read it again." And Vrindavan Das Thakur, the author of Chaitanya Bhagavat, writes that sometimes up to 100 times, unbelievable, the Lord would ask Gadadhar Pandit to continue reading the pastimes of Prahlad Maharaj and Dhruva Maharaj. At one point, of course, I'll just fast forward this, that the Lord was getting towards the end of his Leela, and there were signs that now it's the time to return to the spiritual world. And Gadadhar Pandit was he was worshiping the deity regularly, and they were the same age. But then that moment came where the Lord left the planet. Gadadhar Pandit was completely in anguish. The Lord had left the planet. And now it was difficult for him to continue to live. And he was feeling such pain and love and separation. he felt it's not possible for me to live. Lord Chaitanya is gone. And Lord Chaitanya, how he disappeared, it's described quite beautifully that he entered into the body of the deity of Gopinath just to show his love for Gadadhar Pandit. He could have left in so many ways, but to show his love for Gadadhar, he entered that same deity who was being served so nicely. After Gadadhar Pandit realized that his life was no longer worth living, he continued to serve, but it became very difficult. At one point, one particular personality, whose name was Srinivasacharya, he was told that if he needs to learn Srimad Bhagavatam, he should go to Jagannath Puri and learn from Gadadhar Pandit. So he went and took shelter of Gadadhar Pandit, made his request that Sachi Mata has sent me here. You are the person who can teach Srimad Bhagavatam. Please accept me as your student. Gadadhar Pandit tried to read Bhagavatam to Srinivas, but he couldn't, because every time he would do that, he would cry. And a lot of times, because of his crying, it would fall onto the pages of Bhagavatam, and the ink would become smeared. So, wanting to satisfy Srinivas and teach him, he said, you take my Bhagavatam and go back to the scribes in Navadvip and have it recopied and then come back. But during that time, Gadadhar Pandit started to experience intense separation from the Lord. Although he was the same age as the Lord left the planet when he was 48. Gadadhar Pandit was trying to dress Gopinath every day. And now it became difficult to put the crown on the head of Gopinath, because apparently it says that because of his unhappiness or his ecstasy of separation from Lord Chaitanya, he was aging 1 year every day. You can imagine what it's like. So one time he was struggling really hard to put on the garland of Gopinath and the crown of Gopinath. And Gopinath, feeling compassion for his pure servant, sat down. And to this day, the deity is in a sitting position. You can see this big Krishna deity, very beautiful, very dark. He's now sitting down in a cross-legged position. Srinivasacharya came back upon the learning that, and then of course now Gadadhar Pandit, he couldn't live any longer, and so he decided, not he that decided, but the ecstasy of separation was too much for Lord Chaitanya. He left the body. And then when Srinivas Thakur came back, he had heard now that he is no longer there. And Srinivas fainted also. And then there's a long story how Srinivas went to different persons and finally learned Bhagavatam from Srila Jiva Goswami. Okay, so these are some of the unlimited glorious pastimes of such a great personality as Gadadhar Pandit. We can only marvel at his qualities because they are unlimited and so attractive. Being Srimati Radharani manifest again along with the energy of Lalita Shakti. He was a completely different person than Radharani in Vrindavan, always submissive, always sweet, always loving, but yet very spiritually powerful. Okay, so we'll stop there. Srila Gadadhar Pandit ki jai.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. Thank you very much. for giving us this glories of Sri Gadadhar Pandit. So it's always essential to hear and read once again glories of the associates of Lord Chaitanya, so which uplifts our bhakti process. Thank you so much, Guru Maharaj, and you gave a lot of nice pastimes of Sri Gadadhar Pandit. And I came to know about a new term today, that is Kshetra Sannyas. I don't know about this before, so thank you so much, Guru Maharaj, and a lot of nice pastimes of Sri Gadadhar Pandit. Thank you so much. And dear devotees, if you have any questions or comments or realizations, you can please go ahead and mute yourself. And I just want everyone to request everyone to stay until the end of the class. So we are going to have some announcements at the end of the class. So please stay back for that. Thank you so much. And I request everyone to switch on their cameras. So it's very nice to see all of you. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Hey, devotees. Yes, Raj Prabhu, you want to go ahead, please?
Thank you, Mataji. Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to all of the Vaishnavas. Maharaj, that was very nice, and I didn't know very much at all about Gadadhar Pandit, so I feel that I need to listen to the recording afterwards, so because I don't remember everything of it. But I was interested to hear if do we know of or have access to any of the childhood pastimes of Gadadhar Pandit?
Well, they centered around Lord Chaitanya because even when they were very young, they were together as playmates. You would have to do some research in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Chaitanya Bhagavat, particularly those two scriptures, and see what you could find. It does say they grew up together, practically inseparable, even from the time when they were born. But you don't hear much about the details of those early days. But all these things are written somewhere. But maybe we don't have access through the available scriptures. You might be able to do some special research and see what you can find, because a lot of this thing has been recorded by other persons in a very simplified way. So I would say that knowledge is probably available to some degree.
Okay. Thank you, Maharaj.
Yeah.
I think it would be nice to see if I can find out, because it sounds like, especially if they were inseparable in childhood, must have had some very sweet pastimes.
Yeah, obviously.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Dear devotees, any more questions or comments? Guru Maharaj, while we are waiting for other devotees to ask questions, I was thinking like, so in the purport, Srila Prabhupada is mentioning about Lalita Shakhi. So she, the same Shyamasundara Vallabha is now present in Lord Chaitanya's pastimes as Gadadhar Pandit. So Shyamasundara Vallabha, can you please elaborate or enlighten me on that part, Guru Maharaj?
The word Vallabha refers to one who who gives unlimited pleasure. So one who gives unlimited pleasure to Shamsundar is Shamsundar Vallabha. That's another name for Radharani.
Okay, Ganesh, yeah. So, but here, not much information is given about Lalita Sakhi. Maybe in next verses it is there. I don't know. So
Yeah, she's also mentioned, Lalita Shakti. It's quite interesting because Lalita Sakhi is also quite fiery. She's a very fiery personality. And so is Radharani, but she has both. Radharani has many moves. So when they come together, it's a whole different mood with Lord Chaitanya. Quite interesting.
yes, Ganesh, yeah.
And Lalita Sakhi is always, she's the best friend of Lord Vishaka and Lalita were the two best friends of Radharani.
Yes, Ganesh, thank you so much. Devanand Pandit Prabhuji, you want to go ahead?
Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to you, dear Guru Maharaj. The question is, what meaning do Maharajas put in the name that they give to their disciples during initiation? For example, what does the name Gadadhar Pandit Das mean? Does this mean that this Prabhu is a partial incarnation of Sri Gadadhara Pandita? Thank you.
Well, Devananda Pandit was an associate of Lord Chaitanya. He was elderly. There was some difficulty at the beginning when Devananda Pandit, he was a great scholar, knew about the Vedas, would read Srimad Bhagavatam, had a large following, but he offended Srivas Thakur. Lord Chaitanya challenged him, but then Devananda Pandit did great service to Bhakeshwar Pandit. When Lord Chaitanya heard about that, he immediately felt very inclined to give Devananda Pandit his mercy. So Devananda Pandit, in one sense, later in his life became a follower of Lord Chaitanya. So Chaitanya Bhagavat speaks more about Devananda Pandit than Chaitanya Charitamrita. So if you want to find out more, just read Chaitanya Bhagavat.
Sorry, and the question was what meaning Maharajas put in general in the name of their disciple. For example, does this mean that, for example, Gadadhar Pandit Das, a devotee, is partial incarnation of Sri Gadadhar Pandit?
We give. You're asking me why we choose the names we choose. Is that it?
No. What does it mean? The name.
The name means servant. Das means servant. Pandit means scholar, and Devananda refers to the person. So you got the name of a scholar named Devananda Pandit. You want a different name?
I'm asking in general, not only about Devananda Pandit Das or about Gadadhar Pandit. In general, does this mean that, for example, Gadadhar Pandit Das, the disciple, is a partial incarnation of Sri Gadadhar Pandit?
No, you're not an incarnation of Devananda Pandit. Unless you're mentioned in the Gadadhar Pika as one of his incarnations or followers, maybe.
Thank you.
If you want a different name, we can arrange it. You don't like your name?
Yeah, I like my name, but I'm asking in general. I don't know what is the meaning of.
I just told you. We choose names from the scriptures that are the names of the Lord, the names of holy places, the names of qualities, the names of personalities. And we choose those names and we connect it with disciples and we give them the name. It's like Sri Devi. We gave her name was Lakshmi before. So another name for Lakshmi is Sri. And Srimati, her name was Lavanya before. Lavanya means beautiful. And Srimati also means beautiful. It has many meanings, but that's just one. So we connect so you want to know why I choose the names I choose?
Guru Maharaj, if I may, sorry to interrupt you. I think Devanand Pandit Prabhuji is asking about so why we are, if you are keeping Das at the end of the name, so what does that actually mean in general? Whether he is the servant or the incarnation of the Lord.
Not incarnation. Yeah. There's no such thing. Incarnation refers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. No question of incarnation. We choose different names. Prabhupada gave the name Haribolananda Das, one who likes to chant Haribol.
Hope that
no question of incarnations.
So I hope that answers Devanand Pandit Prabhuji. Did you get cleared?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Sridevi Mataji, you want to go ahead with your question?
Thank you. Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to your divine lotus feet. Thank you, Guru Maharaj, for explaining about Sri Gadadhar Pandit. Just like Srimati, I have a question in this purport, a little perplexing to me. The second sentence, which says, Sri Swarup Damodar Goswami has pointed out that in the shape of Lakshmi, the pleasure potency of Krishna, she was formerly very dear to the Lord. Now, I have never ever, or rather, we have always heard that the pleasure potency of Krishna is Aladini or Radharani, and from her, all the Lakshmis are coming.
Right.
So, but it says here that the pleasure potency is named Lakshmi. How is that?
Yeah, there's no difference. The female manifestations of the Godhead are all the pleasure potency of the Lord. So Radharani expands herself into the gopis, the Lakshmis, and the queens. So one of her expansions is the Lakshmis. She's also called Sarva Lakshmi Mai. That's another name for Radharani.
So over here, when it's described that Lakshmi is the pleasure potency of Krishna, it means that one of the Lakshmis who are coming from.
Yeah, there's unlimited Lakshmis.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
Thank you.
Dear devotees, any more questions or comments or realizations? You can ask or you can share your realizations. Guru Maharaj, I want to know about that. So you mentioned that after Lord Chaitanya's departure from this world, Gadadhar Pandit also left this planet. So, so
11 months after Lord
Yeah,
Chaitanya disappeared,
yes, Guru
he
Maharaj.
left. He stayed for 11 more months.
Okay.
Most of the reason why he stayed was to instruct Srinivasacharya in the Bhagavatam.
Yes,
Otherwise, he would have been gone sooner.
So all the associates have left like that, Guru Maharaj, or so?
Many stayed to carry on his mission, and many couldn't bear the separations. For instance, what was his name? Narahari Sakar, he couldn't bear the separation. He used to fan the Lord. He left not so long. Many, and there was a whole long list of personalities who, one after another, were leaving after Lord Chaitanya.
Yeah, thank you, Guru Maharaj. Namrata Mataji, you want to go ahead with your question?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to your lotus feet. Guru Maharaj, I just wanted to share that my grandmother, she departed. I had a question regarding that thing only. After the death of a person in a house, we should we should not worship our deities for some days. Is it true, or is it just a myth?
Well, these different sections, some talk about that. I don't know. You have to speak to. I can't give you a clear answer on that, because some people follow all of these restrictions and others don't. And then there is the principle that devotional service is transcendental to all of these considerations. And devotional service should not stop because of the departure of someone. That's what I would say. Continue on with your devotional service.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Guru Maharaj.
Yeah.
Our prayers for your grandmother, Namrata Mataji. We all pray for her.
Thank you.
Sorry for your loss. Yeah.
The grandmother was a great soul. She was a natural devotee of the Lord from her early age. Obviously, she got a very good destination, very high destination.
By the mercy of the Vaishnavas, Maharaj, we were doing Kirtan and she left at that time.
Yeah, that indicates how great she was. She left the chanting of the holy name. You can't get any higher than that. I mean, that's the best. We all aspire to leave under those circumstances.
Thank you, Mataji. So Sridevi Mataji, you want to go ahead? You have one more question?
If you don't mind. Guru Maharaj, we hear about Gadadhar Pandit's great devotion and his deep commitment to worshipping the Lord, even though his body was aging, even though it was so very difficult, and even though it was a big struggle, he was continuing the worship of the Lord. So how we can develop this quality that I also want to become fixed. I also want to keep high level of sadhana, worship, etc., and not be like a leaf in the wind, you know, any little thing.
can't be imitated. You can't imitate someone's bhakti. It comes naturally by your advancement in Krishna consciousness. So the more you make advancement, the more these exalted qualities come out. We can learn from the life of these great souls how to live in a devotional way, but we can't imitate them. One is called the Nusharan and the other one's called the Nuskaran. The Nusharan means following in the footsteps, and Nuskaran means imitation. Imitation is cheap. So, and there's a lot of people who present themselves as advanced devotees through the process of imitation. But, it doesn't get anywhere because they're just cheating themselves. So don't try to imitate, just try to develop the qualities of these great souls through your practice of devotional service.
Yes, Guru. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
If you want to develop a certain quality, practice that quality, pray to Krishna to help you develop that quality.
Yes, Guru. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
So, dear devotees, any more questions or comments before we go to the announcements part? Guru Maharaj, I don't see anybody have any more questions, Guru Maharaj. So we are already at the 1 hour mark. So I just want to announce for tomorrow's class and about the next announcements, Guru Maharaj. Is it okay to do that?
Yeah, first end the recording.
Sure, Guru Maharaj, yeah.